weeks to talk about your feelings and robots.
As long as my feelings don't run out of battery. It comes with a proprietary charger.
Let's do a show. Here we go.
At the end of the day, making free content doesn't come cheap. Show your support for the independent content you're listening to right now at patreon.com/acedetect. That's patreon.com/ACEDTECT.
This is the Daily Tech News for Thursday, June 18th, 2015. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me, as he does many times on a Thursday and many other days, Justin Robert Young of Weird Things, Jury Talks, Night Attack, and DTNS.
Yeah, man, I'm so excited to be back on the show, sliding back in to your tech news podcasting lives, listeners, like the Cardinals into the Astros database.
As soon as you started that metaphor, I knew where it was going to end up. Where are you coming from today? Might I ask?
Morristown, New Jersey.
Morristown. Huh. What's Morristown known for?
The hotel that I'm in right now. I have
the famous hotel that Justin Robert Young stayed in.
Yeah, I know. Morristown, it's known for being a 30-minute trip from Newark International Airport.
All right. Well, let's take a look at the headlines. Mark Gurman over at 9to5Mac, who, by the way, every time I say his name, I'm like, who's really got a good record with the rumors? But he does, as tiring as it is that he's right so often. Has some sources who say Apple's plan for Apple Watch 2 includes adding a video camera with FaceTime functionality, a new wireless system for greater iPhone independence, so you can do more things on the watch without being tethered to the phone, new ways to be more expensive, also known as premium options between the $1,000 and $10,000 levels, and battery life expected to be not different, the same as the current Apple Watch. Apple will likely release a full next generation Apple Watch next year. That's when we expect them usually to do things, yearly. But that camera might or might not make it into next year's edition, might be pushed off to a future one.
Which, of course, if the battery life is the same and they have things like a front-facing camera and a Wi-Fi radio on there, that would mean that there is more battery capacity. It would just be our experience would be that the battery life is about the same, which I think that was probably the most overblown of fears for the watch compared to, I think, how things have shaken out. There really
Some people are complaining about it. Legitimately can't get through a day without recharging it. But it's not as bad, I think, as people were.
Yeah, you're really working on that watch if you can't get through if you can't get through a day with it, in my opinion. But the big question for this is, where do you think Apple wants the watch to be released? Because they have very much chafed at they have moved successfully the iPhone release to the spring.
Where in the year? I get it. Okay.
Yeah, where in the year, where in the season do they see the watch? Because I do think they probably want it. Oh, do they want to give it its own little release window? Do they want to release it when they release the new phones in the fall or the iPads in the spring? I think that'll be a good question.
As iPad becomes more and more a commodity, very much like the iPod Touch, maybe we start seeing the watch being the flagship of the fall announcement. That would make sense.
It would. BuzzFeed's Matt Honan got a sneak peek at a Twitter project called Lightning that is targeted to launch later this year. Project Lightning brings photos, videos, and tweets together easy for me to say, in an event-based curated view that's embeddable across the web. So anything from breaking news to sporting events to award shows can be viewed whether you're logged in or not. If you are logged in, you can view them in a separate section or follow an event and see it blended into your regular timeline. Twitter expects to have 7 to 10 events running on any given day.
It's the last hurrah of Dick Costolo, who apparently did this interview with Matt Honan 2 days before he announced he was leaving as CEO of Twitter. And it's his sop to people who complain that Twitter doesn't have enough active users. He's been beating the drum to say, hey, Twitter really doesn't need active users as much as it needs viewers, as it needs readers of the active users it does have. And this is an attempt to take advantage of that. And I think it's a really interesting capitalization on something people use Twitter for regularly, which is following live events.
Certainly so. It also takes advantage of the fact that when Twitter put in embeddable tweets, it really made a difference in terms of web reporting of people not just copying and pasting text, which is really all you want to see, and putting quotes around it into their story, but putting the full, rich, Twitter-enabled embed right there. So as a way to capitalize on the fact that people are already using that function, I think this makes sense. However, you do have to wonder whether or not the rabbi, Dick Costolo, whose baby this apparently was, will affect how it is deployed now that he no longer has the top position.
Honan did get a quote from Jack Dorsey, who said, "I'm 100% behind this project." So at least out of the gate, the interim CEO isn't showing any signs
Well,
of
sure, but if he hated it, what is he going to say? This is terrible, and I'm
100% behind this project. Yeah, I don't know. We actually have 3 stories about new ways to get news. The next web reports BuzzFeed itself has a news app of its own available for iOS today. BuzzFeed News is the name of the app. Shows you the most important real news of the day. Not listicles, not that kind of BuzzFeed, but the real honest-to-God reporting, like what Matt Honan did, plus breakdowns by topic. You can even opt in and push notifications, either from things like major breaking news or specific categories like politics. And you can also opt in to specific story alerts. So right now, for instance, you could say, show me all the stories of the FIFA corruption investigation. Let me know anytime a new one breaks.
Perfect time for them to roll this out. Probably the biggest impact they have in terms of original reporting is in politics, and with the political season coming up, this is a great time for them to flex their muscle.
Yeah, presidential election topic, have that thing let you know anytime there's a breaking news story about it. And folks who don't know, there are 2 BuzzFeeds. There are many BuzzFeeds, I'm sure, but there is the BuzzFeed you all joke about with its clickbait headlines, and then there's a real hardworking journalistic integrity version of BuzzFeed that does excellent original reporting.
Yes, there's the BuzzFeed that is paying good reporters that no longer work at newspapers because newspapers don't pay anybody anymore. But wait! There's more to this news podcast for which covers how news is covered. Fortune reports on Google News Lab's 3 new crowdsourced journalism projects. YouTube Newswire is getting the most headlines. It's a video platform collaboration with Storyful that features verified YouTube videos that news outlets can use to embed. Another project called First Draft Coalition will train folks in verification and ethics. He sighed. And the Witness Media Lab is a Google partnership with nonprofit Witness that trains non-journalists in reporting injustice and human rights violations worldwide.
Now, why are you sighing about the ethics and verification training?
Noble. It's a noble idea.
Well, I think the idea is good, which is existing journalists who didn't, cut their chops on the internet could benefit from a little training about like what is believable on the internet and what isn't. No?
It is a problem. I don't know if this is the solution, which is, I guess, why I gave it a snotty, dismissive reaction. But
Can I jump in here for a second?
Yeah, absolutely. Jenny.
Oh, a wild Jenny!
I actually worked with Storyful when I worked at Yahoo, and I did find them to be as advertised, which is to say, in an organization where you don't have a fully built out news staff the way you did at a traditional newspaper or a magazine or wherever, having them take that verification of a YouTube video function away is a huge time saver, and there was never a time in the time that we used them that they biffed it. So it was just one of those things where it's actually a super valuable function, because the art of chasing one person's YouTube video in Russia is like, in the immortal words of, ain't nobody got time for that. So anyway, my 2 cents.
No, I think that is a great idea, and that to me makes a lot more sense because it's an actual product and a tool that people can use. The other ones, I'm just kind of curious as to know what their target audience is, because I feel that a lot of the and we call it citizen journalists or amateur journalists if you want to be a jerk about it, don't really consider themselves journalists. Like, they are doing what we would consider to be news gathering, but I think they think of themselves more as private citizens who are just getting the news out. So I don't know if they will be wooed to hear lessons about verification and stuff like that, beyond the idea of, hey, if you put this out, maybe there's a little clippy that pops up in the corner of your screen that says, hey, it looks like you might get sued for publishing that. Would you like to take a lesson on journalism?
I see you're trying to commit libel. Would you like some help with that? I think it's better to have these than not, frankly, because people are definitely not going to get trained if they don't have the resources for it. But honestly, when I look at all three of these stories here, I see the outline of where news is going. When you hear about the death of journalism, you are hearing about the death of a business model, not the death of journalism. And I think these three stories show that we have lots of momentum towards journalism and a lot of interest in journalism, whether it's listicles providing the funding for original reporting, whether it's a YouTube newswire taking advantage of crowdsourced video to provide things, as Jenny said, that would have taken a lot more time and effort to gather, or Twitter essentially creating, the biggest staffed live reporting outfit that has ever existed in history. I mean, none of these are the silver bullet, but they are the outline of the future of journalism.
And one last thing on this. So this is a golden age of journalism, and anybody who says different is flatly wrong. The biggest criticism that anybody would have about the modern era is that A, anybody can do it, and B, that lies can make their way to public consciousness quicker than they have in the past, which objectively is true. What is untrue or misleading about that statement is to think that A, lies did not constantly make their way to the public consciousness before, when we had fewer gatekeepers, and what is absolutely inarguable is that lies can be corrected at a speed for which they never could be before, when even corrections would get buried in some languishing element of the back of the A section. So I think these are all great tools. When I sniffed at that the verification stuff, it is not to say that we are not in a beautiful time for journalism. It is just to say I hope that in this awkward teenage years of this new model, that we can continue to hone what is best to get the most accurate information.
Yeah. And the other element the only other element you didn't touch on, as far as I'm concerned, is funding. And that's just a matter of trying things until we figure out which one works. It's not that people won't pay. It's figuring out how to make it so that they put their money where it has the best effect. Mm-hmm. And I believe that will happen. I'm a Pollyanna about it. So there. Google, Microsoft, Mozilla, and WebKit project engineers have announced they're teaming up together. Yeah, all of those folks together. See? Who's the Pollyanna now? WebAssembly. It's a bytecode for the web, according to TechCrunch. The new format lets programmers compile code for the browser. They're currently focused on C, C++, but they're going to add more later, where it is then executed inside the JavaScript engine without having to parse the full code. That speeds up execution. Hope is that WebAssembly will provide developers with a single compilation target for the web that will become a standard that's implemented in all browsers. The team also plans a script that will convert WebAssembly to ASM.js so that it can run in any browser at all, even if it doesn't support WebAssembly. And they hope to add support for more languages and new tools over time.
And TechCrunch reports on the EFF's 5th annual privacy report that rates online service providers' commitment to transparency and privacy. The report rewards up to 5 stars in categories like best practices, data retention, government data demands, government data removal demands, and pro-user public policy, specifically opposing backdoors in digital services. 21 of the 24 companies evaluated met this last criteria. 9 companies got 5 stars, including Adobe, Apple. What is the pronunciation on this?
Credo.
Credo,
Credo.
right?
I don't know.
Yeah, whatever. Credo shot first. Dropbox, Sonic, Wicker, Wikimedia, WordPress.com, Yahoo, AT&T, and WhatsApp received 1 star.
So AT&T and WhatsApp received 1 star, just to be clear.
Yeah.
Yahoo received 5 stars.
Yahoo received 5 stars. AT&T and WhatsApp, 1 star for you.
1 star for you. And Verizon got called out, even though they had 2 stars, for just being particularly poor in even the stars that they got, according to the EFF. But one thing that was positive about this report is they said, across the board, all companies have improved in light of the last couple of years of revelation. So we are seeing more commitment to transparency and privacy than ever before. So they had to actually up their requirements for you to get a star this time.
Well, I think it's good when somebody like the EFF is A, poking their nose into these kind of situations, and B, are certainly maybe seeing progress and seeing that the big players in the industry are actually doing what they say.
Captain Kipper is one of the folks who submits regularly on the subreddit, and you can be too. Go to dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Let us know what stories you'd like us to cover. In fact, you can be lazy about it. If you're like, that sounds like a lot of work, Tom, you don't have to submit anything. You can just go and look at all the stuff that other people have submitted and play judge. Set yourself up as judge and jury for what stories we should cover at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Captain Kipper sent us the Verge story that as of June 29th, Reddit itself will be serving all of its pages over SSL. The site already supports connections over SSL, but the new system will automatically direct all connections to the SSL protected version of the site. Encrypt all the things. Reddit is now on board.
Finally, the fact that I spend most of my day on R squared circle will be encrypted from prying eyes. Starfury Zeta alerted us to this Ars Technica story that Sprint has stopped throttling its heaviest data users, even when its network is congested, to avoid potential violations of the Federal Communication Commission's new net neutrality rules. Quote, for less than a year, Sprint used a network management practice that applied only at the level of individual congested cell sites and only for as long as congestion existed. Upon review, and to ensure that our practices are consistent with the FCC's new net neutrality rules, we determined that the network's management technique was not needed, end quote, from Sprint itself.
Yeah, they didn't say new. I noticed you kind of just naturally put that in there, and I think they didn't say new in their quote on purpose. The only reason I pointed out is these are the 2010 rules, not the 2015 rules. And
Gotcha.
These are the rules that AT&T got slapped a $100 million potential fine accusation yesterday. This is Sprint saying, oh, that program we started a year ago? Yeah, that's the one, very similar to the one that AT&T just got in trouble for. Let's yank that right now. It doesn't have anything to do with the newly implemented rules, but it is a chilling effect of the enforcement against AT&T, because Sprint said, we don't think they actually violated those transparency rules, but just to be safe, we're ending the program.
Do you think that this is like a legitimate beginning of the end of throttling for unlimited plans?
It's possible. I mean, we'll see in 29 days when the FCC finally decides whether to extend that fine to AT&T or not. It's, a lot of people were pointing out that $100 million is not that much to a company as large as AT&T. It's not exactly so much the fine as the public nature of it, and violating the regulation. It just, no company really wants to get entangled in that if they don't have to. It's too late for AT&T, but yeah, obviously it made SoftBank and Sprint think twice about keeping that plan in place.
Well, the other thing about that is that, yeah, $100 million will be whatever it is to AT&T's coffers, but nobody wants. That is a big enough number to say you don't want it again, and you certainly don't want to be caught on further offenses for which you can say you didn't learn your lesson and now we have to fine you more than $100 million.
Yeah, it's like the $80 parking fine, right? To a lot of people, $80 is, it's really not that much. But nobody wants to get fined. Nobody wants to get ticketed, and AT&T is kind of the same way.
Yeah.
And that's the end of everything in the headlines. All right, we got a couple of stories today that were floating around up there that made us think that we need to talk to you about our feelings. They're both emotion-tugging robot stories. One of them is SoftBank, the previously mentioned SoftBank, getting in bed with Alibaba and Foxconn to make and sell the humanoid robot Pepper. It goes on sale this weekend in Japan, actually, and Pepper is being used in SoftBank's stores already as sort of a greeter. Pepper's very humanoid, has articulated 5-finger hands, laughs and jokes and speaks in 4 or 5 languages, doesn't have articulated legs but can move around, on a flat surface. And the idea is to get these in people's homes as sort of emotional companions. So it's not a functional robot. It's not going to do things for you, but it can talk, it can listen, and more importantly, it learns about you. It has a learning algorithm that starts to learn your taste and what you like to talk about and things like that. It can actually translate what state you are in using its knowledge of emotions and doing some facial expression analysis. And this comes at the same time that the New York Times did a follow-up on Aibo, the robot dog circa 1999, from Sony. Sony stopped repairing Aibos in March of last year, 2014. They ended production of Aibos in 2006, but the video from the New York Times, which, by the way, is a fantastically produced piece, just shows the emotional connection that people still have with these, admittedly somewhat limited robots. So what is the deal here? Like, I thought we wanted robots to do our work for us, Justin, but it sounds like we just want someone to talk to.
Well, we want technology to be our friend, or we want technology to continue to fill in what we add up to equal friendship. And this is, we were entering into this story because these products are very specifically supposed to trigger emotional elements in your life, and that is their function. But it's not limited to them. Siri, initially got attention because people liked to tell jokes to it, and then Apple made a point to advertise it as Siri will call you what you want it to call you. There is a element of playfulness to what is an otherwise cold technology. Beyond
Microsoft's
that,
certainly trying to take advantage of that, marketing Cortana with its personality.
and even beyond that, Pandora first very much came to prominence because of the idea of the Musical Genome Project, and that we could, through algorithms, learn your musical tastes. And now you could have the friend that always turns you on to new music without, in fact, having a friend who turns you on to new music. What is fascinating is where we are naturally rewarding technological advancements, and where the leaders of the day continue to fill in for what we may or may not realize are emotional chasms that we want activated.
Well, and we have been doing this to inanimate objects forever, probably. I don't know how long humans have been naming inanimate objects, giving them genders, giving them personalities. Cars are a great example of that. People often name their cars and talk about their personalities, and so it's a perfectly natural extension of that, right? I get worried. Not worried is the wrong word, but I wonder what the effect of fanboyism is. And I know fanboyism is sort of a loaded term, but that idea of your identity being tied up in a brand, right? So Android forever, no, Apple forever, no, Microsoft forever. If you now have the product, not just a somewhat inanimate object or even able to like jump through some hoops and give some tricks like it has a personality, but genuinely programmed to give you emotion. And the Aibo story really highlights that, because here are people, this robot hasn't been made in 9 years. The parts are now impossible to get from the company, so you have to like cannibalize other Aibos essentially. And yet they show this elderly couple in Japan, just they've got like a dozen of these things. They keep them going. They take them on trips. They take pictures with them. So we are now going to be even more invested in whatever brand or product we decide to bring into our lives.
Well, yeah, and also we are at a gateway to, I think, we will look at the IBO as, in the same way that we look at balancing your humors as medicine. Like it is incredibly primitive compared to where we're going. I mean, the idea of a barely functioning AI like we see with Cortana and Alexa and Siri, compared to where we will have, when these things have memories and these things remember that, maybe calling my ex-girlfriend after I asked for directions to the bar is a bad idea, and it asked me whether or not I really want to do it, whether or not it calls an Uber for me before I drive home. Apparently all of my examples involve getting drunk in bars, but which shows you exactly my need for friends. These are intensely personal things, and we are seeing it now with wearables, and very specifically the Apple Watch. I mean, the Apple Watch, to me, is the first, and for whatever you might think of it as a product, it is designed to be inwardly facing as opposed to outwardly facing, which very much watches had been in the past. It's the only Siri interface that Apple has that doesn't naturally speak back to you. You speak to it, and it gives you, other ways to tell you that it has received your message. The Taptic Engine is very much supposed to be a stealth your relationship with the watch, and then beyond that, you can share it with the world. It's something that even in the reviews you can very much see if you do not hit it off with what is an emotional product, people don't like it, and it's not like that gets better with time. I think people find resentment in certain elements of it in a way that I think will be a hallmark of the wearable the wearables genre, just because it is supposed to be kind of under your skin in a way that other products aren't, because it's always with you. This is incredibly fascinating to me, and I'm very interested to see where we go, and more specifically, how many friends do we want? How much emotional stimulation do we really are we going to hit a balance point at?
Yeah, and do we want external simulated companions, or is Siri the better example of the AI friend we want? Something that's actually kind of part of you and is much more internalized, like you said. Pepper is certainly not the first companion robot to be marketed. It is claimed to be the most advanced at, and it is targeted directly at emotion detecting and emotion support. So maybe it'll be different when these start to get into homes. But lots of other products have been out there. They have a great day the day they're launched. The local news comes down and does a package, and then they end up in the cupboards, at least according to the BBC. They don't continue to get used because at some point people just get bored with them and realize there's a limit to what they can do. Now, maybe Pepper will surpass that limit, but I think it's not just the sophistication of the AI at play there. I think there's something to the idea that I know you're not a real friend. And so it doesn't matter how good you are at convincing me of that. Even if you were operated by a human, I might eventually just turn back towards other things that are more part of me rather than separate from me.
But again, let's break down what a friend is, because I think that's where technology is already.
I would have to have experience with having them, but you go ahead.
I know. If you weren't the news hermit, shut in your in your domicile, finding all the news for everybody at all times of the day, then maybe you would have these quote unquote friends. But where technology can do it is what. Again, I don't think that we will ever replace friends. I don't think we will ever, and maybe we will. Maybe I'll be proved wrong. I don't think we'll ever look at our phone and say, "Oh man, remember that friend?" Like in the way that we do a human. But there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot, all the little pieces that add up to that get circled when you think of what a friend is. Technology is already filling in for that. It already is there, and those relationships that we form with technology, cold might they be, are certainly real, and they are life-changing, not in to say that your life is totally changed, but it does affect how you live your daily life.
And, you know, the fact of the matter is they can succeed depending on how good the technology is. Obviously, Sony decided that as much couple in the new and Alibaba and SoftBank and Foxconn are saying, we think there's a good bet that Pepper can overcome that and sell lots of these worldwide. They're going to sell for 198,000 yen. That's about $1,600 US, 1,000 pounds UK. And you'll even be able to rent them, but they require a monthly service fee. So I'm not sure. And you have to sign a 3-year contract. You know, so you start to get into, well, is this actually something I want to sign on to? But I think that points out to me the most exciting thing about both of these stories, especially the SoftBank one, is that we are now at the point where we are seriously and legitimately discussing whether a personality-based robot is worth buying and bringing into your home or not. That's a reality. That's a choice. That's a marketing choice, a consumer choice you have now. Just think on that for a moment. We were there with smartwatches maybe 15 years ago, and we're still not quite over the hump there. So it all depends. But that's a fascinating turn of events from my point of view.
Absolutely, and it'll be very, very interesting to see, you know, when the rubber meets the road. Because again, the one thing that we can say universally about people's emotional output is that it is not universal, right? Like, you know, everybody is different. Everybody handles things in a way that is a tremendously complex, you know, algorithm to write. Like, for example, if I had Pepper in my house and it did the one thing that is my greatest pet peeve, which is alerting me to the fact that I am cranky when I am in fact cranky, I would have to take its head off.
And you can put it back on later. That's the nice thing about Pepper. So, you know, they are making parts for that. Yeah, and one assumes that the Pepper robot would then learn, oh, I get my head taken off. I know not to bring that up.
Yeah, but then again, maybe it knows me better than I know myself, and when I am stressful, it feeds me things to bring me down to another level. Maybe it reminds me of my favorite song. Maybe it tells me that I should sit down and watch a TV show that I kind of want to see.
Calls an Uber that set the destination for your favorite bar.
Exactly. Like it'll be very, very interesting. And again, it doesn't have to be warm. It just has to be right. And it has to be right at the right moment. I think whenever we think of AI or we think of emotional responses to technology, we kind of, like, all roads lead to Her, like the movie, right? Yeah. Like, we just think that it's going to be indistinguishable from having a human companion.
Yeah.
And Scarlett Johansson, as we might all wish. But I don't think that's right. I think that it will more likely be a very unique relationship that we have with this kind of stuff, but because it doesn't sleep and because it remembers more than an average human can remember, it has the opportunity to just steer us maybe 2 degrees. The 2 degrees that we barely notice in every single day, that you're feeling upset and then somebody turns on your favorite song and you all of a sudden don't feel so upset anymore because you heard your favorite song in a car driving by. What if that's an ability that we decide to surround ourselves with, and it's not like, oh man, like I was talking to my buddy Computer Joe the other day and he had the best one-liner. Instead, it's just, I'm happier when I have this on.
Yeah, that's
powerful.
That's a harder thing to catch on because it's not as obvious in the first week of use, right? It's something you have to live with a piece of technology for a while for that to catch on. But once it does, man, that has some staying power, the way you're describing it, for sure. Hey, you know, I got together with a bunch of folks in Seattle when I was up there, and I'm pretty sure most of them were not robots. They were awesome people. They were very warm and friendly, and it was great. And at one of them, a guy asked about being able to rip his non-protected DVDs and Blu-rays so that his wife could have access to the files on her iPhone 6 And Sarah in sunny Seattle, who was there, couldn't remember the name of one of the programs to let him know he could do this. She has remembered. If you're listening, sir, try Walter by Softorino. It's WALTR in the old-fashioned way, no E at the very end. According to their website, it takes the suck out of copying music and video into your iPhone or iPad, drag and drop MKV, FLAC, MP3 to iOS for native playback. It's an app, and it's for OS X, so if you're a Windows user, this one isn't going to work for you. They say you can play any media in any format, connect your iOS device to your Mac, drag and drop the files, open videos or music on iOS and play. Unfortunately, she says, I don't know the guy's name or even which of your shows he listens to, but hopefully it's DTNS. Thank you, Sarah, for sending that along. I think a lot of people might want to check this out. Walter at softorino.com/Walter.
This is amazing. I have been looking for a really easy and fun solution for this, although I don't know, I mean, who knows how fun it is, but like I need to get rid of a lot of DVDs, and there's a lot of stuff that you can't buy. Like there's a bunch of old Mel Brooks movies that you can't buy 12 Chairs or Silent Movie. Like it's just not available to buy, and it's not streaming anywhere.
Come on, industry.
I had to buy the box set, and it's just a pain in the butt to, you download it on Handbrake, and, you try to figure it out, and then it's just always a pain.
I had the same problem with the Ailing Studios comedies, Whiskey Galore, only available on DVD.
Yeah, so thank you very much to Sarah in sunny Seattle.
Send your picks to feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. You can find my picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. A few messages from folks sent to feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. Alan thinks Scott's idea of using VR for exploration makes sense, especially when you consider Google working with ViewMaster, as well as expeditions for schools. Alan says, most of Scott's examples were exploration as a person, but VR could also change the scale, so you could explore inside a human body or even a cell, which would be fascinating. Or conversely, you could navigate the universe between galaxies, and if you could smoothly scale between the two extremes, that could be even better.
Isn't this like the curse of VR? Like, no matter at what stage we're in, we always have more good ideas for VR than we have the capacity to do them in a way that satisfies our imagination. Like, it has been the technology for which we have immediately upon seeing it thought, oh, here's a galaxy of ideas, and yet it's an ever-widening pinhole, like that we can see, and make this a reality,
All
but.
Right. I understand. Sure. Somebody swallows a camera and you virtually reality get to follow the camera through their bloodstream. The novelty wears off. But what if it's celebrities?
Celebrity GI tracks?
You could go celebrity GI or circulatory system, possibly. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here.
Oh.
T2, who does a fantastic job running our chat room. Go support him, patreon.com/T2T2. Wanted to clarify, as a resident of Estonia, about the European Court decision on human rights yesterday we talked about that didn't allow for any safe harbor. He said, most importantly, the judgment of the European Court of Human Rights is only whether or not the rulings by the Estonian court followed European laws, or more to the point, only applies to Estonia, not to the rest of Europe. So that is a big caveat to that. They didn't just change the law for all of Europe. Now, it could be viewed as a guiding principle or a precedent, but it only is ruling on, was this legal or illegal in Estonia? He said, we have to consider Estonian laws. Everyone has the right to freely disseminate ideas there. According to the courts, the local equivalent of safe harbor laws, specifically in this case, restricted liability upon provision of information storage service, didn't apply. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday because the portal owner was not deemed to be a hosting provider. And he said, lastly, there's also the local element. Estonian internet comments are 100 times worse than what you can consider the worst of YouTube comments. No exaggeration. It was so bad that, as noted by the Human Rights Court's press release, in September 2005, the Estonian Minister of Justice had to respond to public criticism and concern about incessant taunting on public websites in Estonia. So this wasn't just a few nasty comments. It sounds like it was much worse than maybe you were imagining. Also, the 20 comments are documented and translated at hudoc.echr.coe.int. We'll have a full link in the show notes. And lastly, T2T2 says, to repeat, this does not say anything about the laws of other countries, does not create an obligation for other countries to enact similar laws, and does, in particular, not create any obligations for website owners. So there you go. Thanks for the clarifications, man. That's awesome.
T2T2 is a living god.
He really is. And then on Amazon's comment that as soon as commercial drone use is allowed, they would start delivering packages by drones, Proto732 had the idea that maybe as a driver enters a dense delivery neighborhood, he could send off a couple drones to deliver smaller packages that would meet back up with him after 2 or 3 of his own deliveries. The truck could serve as a short-range communication beacon. And Ron said, what about purchasing a Bluetooth-powered box that clips onto your garage door opener? The drone can open the garage, place the package inside, close the door, and return to meet up with the self-driving UPS truck for a recharge before its next delivery.
Seems legit.
Yeah, totally legit. Good ideas. I don't think I'm going to give any drone the code to my garage door opener. Garage door openers are way insecure enough as it is. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter in that case. But maybe a beacon in the backyard that says, hey, deliver it over here so it's out of sight. I don't know. That could be a cool idea.
Maybe like a little like a lowering trap. You know, I could just like drop it into a little thing, and you could wheel it down like a flagpole or something.
You know, you're joking, but they do have mailboxes specifically for things like UPS. They could come up with something that like the drone could trigger and open it.
I mean, I'm not really kidding. I mean, I do think that if all we need to do is buy a little bit of special equipment, like we buy a little bit of special equipment for a lot of different things. Mail and delivery and stuff is certainly one of them.
Yeah, no, I'm in. All right, thank you, Justin Robert Young. Twitter.com/Justin R. Young. Go follow it right now. He drops pearls of wisdom more often than you can imagine, and you don't want to miss a one of them. You can find lots of his podcasts spread out across the universe. What's the best way to go for that stuff?
Probably the Twitter, but today I will plug FSL. It's back in the habit.
Yeah,
like Sister Act 2. Tom and I do a here. Listen, I'm just gonna spell it out like this. Do you like fantasy, sci-fi, and other genre properties? I'm gonna take a wild guess and say you do. All right. That's it. If you like that, give FSL a try. Now, Second level. Everybody already left that just likes that and doesn't like anything else, that's fine. So here's the second level. If you also have an affinity for not necessarily sports, but how bombastic and silly sports media can be, and would like to see a love letter / playful criticism of that media using those sci-fi and fantasy franchises, then you will doubly like FSL Tonight. So go ahead and check it out. FSLTonight.com and Patreon.com/FSL Tonight, where for the first time ever you can get behind the scenes access, the likes of which we have never offered and may never offer again. This is definitely a test.
Los Angeles Guardians of the Galaxy, at the Coruscant Senators, all off to a good start this season. Check it out, FSLTonight.com. Thank you, our patrons. Listen, folks, you rock, and you make this show possible. So thank you for doing that. Patreon.com/AceDetect, DailyTechNewsShow.com/support are the places to go to support the show. But all I ask, really, each and every day is just tell one person about the show who you think might be interested. That'll just help us grow. It's a multi-level marketing scheme, sure, but it doesn't cost you anything. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. You can give us a call, 512-59-DAILY. That's 512-593-2459. Listen to the show live Monday through Friday, 4:30 Eastern. alphageekradio.com, player.alphageekradio.com, and visit our website, dailytechnewsshow.com. We'll be back tomorrow with Darren Kitchen and Len Peralta. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Done. That was a great show. What should we call it?
I have some thoughts. In fact, the chat room has a devastatingly long list of titles today.
They were on fire. I noticed
Yeah.
that. It was just like bang S, bang S, bang S the whole day long.
They were
Bang
banging.
S, by the way, is the command you use to send a title in the chat room. That's not secret.
By the way, I wonder if Len is going to be able to even like hold his digital pencil tomorrow after his disappointment.
All I know is my wife made a bet with him, and we have chocolate on the way. So,
All right. Well, how about Credo shot first? I really like.
apparently it's an MVNO. I had not heard of them, but yeah.
These are always and like it's just a sign of how unprofessional and terrible I am that I don't read these better, and I don't like I always just run into these names that like I should just run over them and say them how I want so I can keep the flow of things, but then I'm just terrified.
That little angel on your shoulder that used to work at a newspaper, and he's saying, Justin, pronouncer file.
No, it's not even that. I wish it were as noble as that. It's really just my fear that I'm going to say something embarrassing and everyone's just going to run me down on Twitter with pitchforks screaming fraud, fraud, fraud. I'm going to get driven through the digital streets like Cersei with the nun behind me.
That's okay. It'll be Chad Johnson's body. So,
the top 10 ways you'll hate the new BuzzFeed app. But that seems a little negative, perhaps.
yeah, maybe we could spin that a little. I like the idea. Top 10 things you won't believe about the new BuzzFeed app.
Yeah, then there's top 10 things news outlets hate about BuzzFeed.
I feel like that's kind of a cheap shot. That's kind of below the belt when like literally all the news is about how they're not doing like that, and you know they're
And we made that clear.
sure.
So why not use some clickbait to get people?
It all started with Clippy, I like.
you're committing lies.
How about this, Tom? I didn't add new in there by myself. New is in the script.
Oh, it is. Okay. That's totally fair. I just want to do. Really, it is. With the FCC's net neutrality rules. New is in the earlier part. You're right, but in the quote, I just wanted to make sure we didn't put words in their mouth. I wrote it wrong. You're absolutely right about that. Because I said new earlier.
Yeah.
I wrote new. Commissioner's new net neutrality rules. You're right. That's my inaccuracy. But their quote.
TVZ gone. Sorry. TVZ gone. I'm like the amiibo that keeps trying to do its job. Revenge of the Zombie Robot Dogs from TVZ gone.
By the way, what a Pixar movie that is! Like
I know.
The robot dog that's slowly dying. Like, oh, good God!
And going on a race to find its inventor to find parts. I mean, it's
well, and the other ones need to die so it lives. Like,
Take my parts.
Oh, this is why I did that. I could have totally done the show with you, but I couldn't because I didn't want to cry on camera. Because this goes like straight to my soul. This is like classic Jenny Josephson. Had 100 stuffed animals growing up. Like this is right in the wheelhouse. When you guys were talking about like items, non-physical items that have souls, I was like, they're all still in my bedroom. Like I still have a select portion of them. So yeah, I get it. All right, wait. More titles.
by the way, if you want to get even more into navel-gazy pop philosophy about that kind of stuff, what does it say that I feel an intense personal attachment to my iOS devices, specifically my iPhones, yet I don't care that I get a new one every year because I upload everything into a new version.
Yeah,
you know?
You're just putting the old mind in a new body.
Exactly, and I don't care about the device. The device goes off to Gazelle. Who cares? My friend still lives in his new house, which is, you know.
If you know what, if only we could do that with each other.
Should we do? But wait, there's more, or should we do the top 10? Should we do the top 10 or no? Should we just?
Well, there's always who F's the EFF, which I kind of really like. Pepper is nothing to sneeze at. One is the loneliest number that could be filled with technology.
What's your favorite, Jenny?
Oh, it's so hard.
You don't have one.
I like Credo shot first, but I would Or it all started with Clippy.
What if it was 100011 is the loneliest number?
I like that. Let's see. Yeah, Tom, you got to make the call because I don't know.
Or what's a popular binary? Like if we just needed stock, ones and zeros to fill in.
Well, that's the problem. A vast number of the people who get that joke will go, but binary for 1 is 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Could do leading indicators 0000001. Do 8 7 zeros and a 1. Show it was you're filling 8 bits.
I'm down with it.
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's do that. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. It's a little bit of a cheat, but that's what we do here in Cardinal Nation.
Hey, I can't talk. I root for the Red Sox. I just stayed out of the whole baseball conversation because I was like, all I'm going to do is mention the Red Sox, and then people are just going to yell at me. So I'm just going to, yeah. So.
By the way, what was I reading?
That the Red Sox are terrible and they shouldn't have given away John Lester, and they're falling into a terrible pit of morass.
It's something that takes place in New York and is being shot in Boston.
Yes.
Which I know they do.
Know. I just saw
but
that.
But it was
thing
like
too.
really iconic thing. I'm like, really? They're shooting that in Boston?
It's a TV series.
Yeah.
I just saw the same thing and had the same
Seinfeld.
No. When you're walking on the common. No.
No, it's something where like the city is actually integral to the story.
Yes, I know. I just saw the same thing in the feed, and I can't remember what it was.
Is it Law and Order or one of the?
No, it's new.
NCIS.
It's gonna come to me. It was.
No, it's a genre type thing.
It's a genre thing.
Man, I can't remember what it is.
All right, let me look it up because I saw it in Feedly.
And I was like, really? You're shooting that in Boston?
Exactly what you're talking about.
Bang, bam, 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 bam. Binary load lifters
are more something than your something.
They're similar to your evaporators in most ways.
Thank you. I don't know why.
I don't even think I got it. I don't think I nailed it. I was probably a few words off. But that's me doing what Justin was afraid of doing earlier, which is like, don't parade me through the streets about how I got the Star Wars quote.
Shame! Shame! Shame!
Oh man.
Hey guys, I'm gonna break some news here.
Oh,
I've
yeah?
been watching that you guys know there's a Daredevil show on Netflix?
Whoa!
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I know that Netflix shows me great old movies.
Yeah. No, it's not just for movies anymore. They made this comic called the Daredevil, and turns out now they made a show out of it.
What?
Boy, howdy, is it a hell of a watch?
You mean a TV show like Archie Bunker?
Yeah, yeah, those were the days, Tom.
That's amazing.
No, man. So I'm like the latest, and I'm the worst. But it turns out Daredevil is the best. So everything balances out. Because
pretty great.
Welcome.
Good. It's great.
Roger, you just finished it.
I finished it last weekend.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was great. Fantastic.
might be the best Marvel villain of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one of the best. I think it's hands down the best Marvel adaptation into small screen or
Moisture evaporators. Thank you.
ever. Like, consider even Avengers. Like comparing and contrasting, Daredevil actually captures the feel of the series and not just a story arc.
Here's what it is in terms of the villainy, is that the best kind of villains, as we learned on The Wire, are people who think they're doing the right thing, right? The best kind of villains are people who think they are right. And so Daredevil owns that concept across all levels of heroes and villainy. It's a conflict between all different kinds of people who think they are all doing what's right for the city.
Well,
and that is the best.
And it also avoids, because I think that is a trope for which we've seen a lot, and is almost overdone in comic book movies now, is the villain believes that they are really saving the world, right? But they're sociopaths by and large. You know,
Yeah.
it's like I believe that what we need to do is murder everybody, and then we can rebuild the world. And it's like, no, okay, you're a serial killer. You're not really doing this.
Pardon the interruption. It's the new Ghostbusters
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
In Boston?
being shot in Boston, even
You
though
know
it takes
what?
place
I
in New York.
wonder if the ghosts come out because of the big dig.
No, it's set in New York, but being shot in Boston.
Oh, I thought you were saying it was like being set in Boston.
No, that
You were
would
saying-
be
You were saying the city was integral
yeah.
Which is odd, because why
Yeah.
not shoot in Toronto or Pittsburgh or places
because
that are
Toronto
normally?
and Pittsburgh now look like the WB and the CW.
Yeah, they
So
look
in
like
order
Arrow.
to get a really authentic city, it always is just like follow the tax breaks. Massachusetts had good tax breaks this time around, and so that's where they went. And New York City is oversaturated with all types of vehicles, humans, buildings, and everything. So, but yeah, it's kind of stunning.
It's kind of a surprise that Massachusetts, ponied up for something like that, because they've not historically been a place where they've offered really lucrative tax stuff.
Yeah, I think it's because
It's been
they
wicked
are-
hard.
yeah, it's been wicked hard lately down in Dorchester, and they really need a break.
But I guess they
Ben
went to
Affleck
New York to
can
shoot,
only do so
and were told,
much.
"Get out of here."
Yeah.
And to answer your question, Justin, I think what really makes, or your comment about really makes the Kingpin awesome, is there's a level of self-doubt about what he's doing. You always see he's not 100% filled with absolution. His public face to his cronies and to his colleagues is that way, but you see him personally, he's always kind of like, maybe I'm not.
Well,
So
I just got through his origin episode. The episode that primarily focuses on him, and it's like everybody involved. It's just like I stood up in my hotel room and just applauded my laptop. It was like it was so good and such a great use of their ability to be brutal, like the violence, emotional and otherwise, felt so real, and gave you a sense of, really, it's like with Wilson Fisk, they've done what nobody, and I'll be surprised if this gets fixed in Batman vs. Superman, but they've never been able to do with Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor, and not to spoil where that episode ends, but the decision that Wilson Fisk makes at the end of that episode is always, to me, what has separated Lex Luthor from just random bad guy villain of the week. Is he understands you need to be the good guy in somebody's narrative beyond your own, and you need to show the world that you are really, really good, that you are a net positive, even if almost more so if you feel like you're going to need to get your hands dirty to get something done.
Well, the thing with Lex Luthor is just, at least in the movies, the way they've always portrayed him, because a lot of those aspects of Wilson Fisk eventually are actually present in Lex Luthor in the comics, but not in the movies.
Yeah.
The thing about the movies is they've always used Lex Luthor as a way to kind of define Superman / Clark Kent. In other words, he's almost like a force of nature. He's there to define the character and not necessarily be defined.
His own
himself.
character.
Yeah.
Which I think is such a disservice, and it is, and we'll see what the Fantastic Four movie turns out to be. But the two villains that I think are always repeatedly bungled and botched are Lex Luthor and Doctor Doom, because they are fantastic. They're so good for different reasons, and nobody in any big ticket adaptation seems to understand why they're so fascinating and interesting as characters.
I think outside of the Joker from Dark Knight Rises.
Dark
No,
Knight.
it's
Dark Knight.
Dark Knight.
Ready.
Like there's very few because there's an attitude that you need to keep things, and for cynical reasons you need to keep things very two-dimensional. For one thing, it's because they're easier to translate right into foreign markets because everyone understands who the hero is and who the bad guy is, and you can sell something number of tickets outside of non-English speaking areas because it's a movie. The plot translates well. If you try to do more sophisticated, more nuanced stuff, sometimes a lot of that stuff gets, I think, lost.
But
I'm not saying
I would
it's
say
bad
like
or good. I mean,
Doctor Doom seems like more of a prescient character overseas than he does in America. Like the foreign power who sets up his own dictatorship, is something that. Hello.
oh, sorry, it just all like crashed on me.
Yeah.
Has it crashed on you
me
guys?
too. Yeah.
I guess Tom crashed out.
Yeah. Server error.
Good thing that happened after the show.
That's it. That's it. No. That's it. Google doesn't want us to talk about this anymore, apparently.
Google's run by Dr. Doom, apparently.
Apparently. Oh, look at that.
I still want to do, Tom. I still want to pitch that Star Trek show we were talking about, an idea where we would do a Star Trek show, but not based around either the Federation or Starfleet. It would
Oh,
be
the
just
off-screen
Yes.
Star Trek. Yeah. I like that. Well, we're going to get out of here before the
Apparently Google wants us to get out of here.
before the server dumps again, because I don't know what this does to the final video anyway. Stay tuned for Tell It Anyway with its sudden but inevitable betrayal celebrating episode 15.